P&ID collaboration happens on quite a few different levels, whether you're trying to just portray an idea from the P&ID to the piper or the engineers in your group, or even finish that P&ID and send it up to the client for review. So there's quite a few options to go through here. SOCKETWorx does cover quite a few other things. This is just the first part of the series to jump into collaboration on the P&ID side of things, but if you haven't seen it yet, take a look and you'll might like what you see out there. So today we want to cover how to publish the P&IDs to the web. We've made it a fairly simple process for that. And then once you have the P&IDs up there, how to view some of the data, review it, maybe modify it or edit it if it needs to happen, as well as mark up that information so that you can portray your ideas or comments back to any colleagues that are also working on this. So let's just jump over to our basic CADWorx setup here for P&ID. Most customers are comfortable using this or a P&ID design software. It doesn't have to be CADWorx. The first thing you want to do is just have all your data inside the drawing and the layers set up, everything ready to go. But to publish this, we simply just need to add some links to this. And so we've got a command out there that just asks for the web address. And once the web address has been satisfied, we've gone through and added all that data into it. And then I'm just going to run a quick plot command. It's basically plotting the basic settings that we need to get this out there. And then once it's done, we have an Adobe Acrobat PDF. So fairly simple, something that's pretty common between companies that they work with. And from here, you can see we've got hyperlinks on the items. Now you could take this PDF and email it directly to someone internal or external. And as long as they have a SOCKETWorx account, any of these links that they click on will go ahead and open up a browser for them and then load the document. So we've just created the PDF. This is a sandbox, so we're getting a couple extra notifications here, just letting everybody know that this is kind of our playground internally. But it also tells you down below that, yes, we found the correct P&ID you're looking for. You do have an account. We've added in all the annotations if there were any previously. And now that we're inside of SOCKETWorx, it's definitely web-driven, so it'll work with any browser base that runs HTML5. So typically Chrome, Firefox, any of the modern-day browsers that people are using. And each person will have its own login. So with that login, we can restrict whether or not they can view the P&IDs, whether they can edit the data, mark up the data, any of that. So there's quite a bit of control in here on a per-user basis. And then from here, we can just turn on the data links if we want to start viewing the data in the web. As we kind of zoom in here a little bit, some of these guys. You can see as I hover over the components, we've got the link ability to view some of this data. And so if we just kind of hover over or click some of these, it's going to go out and grab that data for us. And by turning the data links on, it allows us access to this properties panel over here. Now inside the properties panel, we've got some tables set up. So these are basic grids that you can work with. These are all customizable. You can make them global so that everybody sees them, or just individual if you're trying to do your own checking to make sure that all the vessels have the right data or something to that effect. To change your view, you just simply select right here where it says all vessels, and now we've got one for HDS, we've got another one that's been cloned. So it looks like somebody was in here trying to modify their own view, and once they finish it, they can go ahead and rename this to whatever they would like to. But we do give you the ability to create your own views, and when you select other items, depending on if it's a vessel or an instrument, we're going to take you to different areas of the database here and allow you to view that data. So as we just click on the components, you can see over here in the properties, all that information. It does look like this is missing some information, so we probably need to add in the service or the fluid as well as the count on this guy. We can take care of that in a little bit. But another thing to kind of note here, this is just basic information that's showing up for us on the side here. If you want to create your own views or modify a little bit more of the data that's out there, you want to go to the actual table itself. I'm going to click this link right here, and it's going to open up that table for me. As it's loading, these icons and the text is scaled up just for presentation. You can scale this down a little bit for your own usability. That's very customizable there just based on the browser that you're working with. So we can see here in the instruments table, we've got quite a few views set up. So within these views, I can look at maybe just pressure gauges. And so I can come in here and filter out anything with the PI, and it'll find it throughout the entire project and bring up any data that I've asked to see. So out of all of these columns in here, these are all customizable when you create your own views. And from within that, if we see some information that doesn't look correct, we can just come in here to the edit mode. You can assign a management a change or an ECN number, or just modify the data only. And we're going to do another webinar on the MOC side of things, but just to kind of open up here and show what you're looking at here is each individual component will have a row, and then you can start modifying the data that you want to get with in there. We do some basic find and replace, some other information in there just to make it simple to have accurate data across the board in your project. So another thing we can do in here is just find information extremely easily. If someone tells you that they need to be working on an instrument 1403, but they don't know what P&ID it's on or where to go find it, you can just type in what information you have, and it'll pull up that data. So now I've typed in 1403, and it's taking me to those components in here for this instrument. If I were in a different table, it would find other information. And anything that has the icons to the left that have been highlighted. So we have data sheets accessible for this. So you could do collaboration on your data sheets and generate them through here, talk it out with your other clients or your engineering teams inside, and even the PDF. So we've already shown the PDF side of things, but you can go directly back to the PDF and this component just by selecting the link right here. Let's go ahead and wait for this to open up. So it's going out, grabbing all the data for us. And since we selected an individual item out of the data, it's going to highlight that for us down here and let us know that, hey, I'm right here. So since you were searching for me, I'll kind of highlight and let you know exactly where I was. And then again, if you want to view any of the data on these guys, same process, turn the links on and come over, find the hyperlink for these, select the link, and it'll go out and grab that data for you. So if we had made any changes, that information would have synced up right here, as well as synced directly back to the P&IDs. So any changes made in here do go directly into the data side of things so that they can sync that on the backside when you get into your CADWorx software. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the markup side of things and how to make comments and work with other people and collaborate with this. So on the top row, these are just basic viewing functionalities. If I wanted to open a different P&ID, I could do that. We also store ISOs, loop drawings, things of that nature. So quite a bit of information can be housed inside of here, but we do give you the ability to just use a standard open dialog and go find those as well. If somebody's maybe modified the information, we do have a refresh up here for you, and then we can turn on or off any annotations. So all of these annotations down below for the markups, we can just turn that off and make them invisible so that we want to see just the P&ID clearly. Go from there. These annotations can also be controlled individually, and we'll get into that in a moment. And then just basic zoom functionality, zoom in, zoom out. Also being able to email or download these PDFs for other people. The next row down here is just your simple annotation. And so if we want to just add text or add a note, maybe just scribble all over it, kind of add your own artwork to this, if you will. We give you the ability of quite a few just very typical items that you may see on a P&ID of a markup and go through that process there. We also have some custom stamps that you could add in here to make it just a little bit easier. Maybe you need to add a valve in. So let's go ahead and close this down so we can see a little bit more of that. So we can just come in here, select one of these icons and stamp it right on here, letting people know that, hey, this valve needs to be added in or whatnot. But let's go back to this line number here. We noticed that it was missing the fluid or the service as well as the count. So I can just come in and add a note, and I'll just pin it somewhere on this line number itself. And with that note, it allows me to then add some more information to this markup. So we'll come over here to the comment side of things. So this revision over here, this RevCloud, I can select that and it'll show me which comment it's referring to. I can also click on my new one and see a little bit of information in there. If you want a little bit more room to work with here, you can always scale this up a little bit and see a little bit more data as we go through there. So our comments are kind of built in a way that allow you to work with standard workflows of what's my current status. So am I open, work in progress, issued for approval, approved or closed. So as we walk through here, we can just kind of cycle through all of these guys. And I'm just going to go ahead and update this to work in progress. I can give it a reference. So we can just tell somebody, let's add line number info. And then down below, we can be a little bit more specific with exactly what we want them to add. So we can tell them that the fluid ID is fuel gas and the count is going to be 303. Now we know that this needs to be filled out on the P&ID side of things, and we can assign it to someone in particular. So right now it shows that this is not assigned to anybody. And if I come up to the top here, you can see that this one is checked. So you can do multiple at a time as well. I do want to highlight this, kind of find my name in the list and assign it to myself. So that way, as I'm looking through my list of to-dos and things to work on and fix, I'll know that I have a note in here to go back and fix this. Now, this process could have happened from an engineer inside the company, could have happened from an external client, somebody else working on the project with you. Anybody that has access, that you've given access to this information, can add the notes and assign it to people. Now that I've assigned that to myself, I have received an email from SOCKETWorx, and let's go ahead and open that up. So anytime something's been assigned to a user, they will be notified, which is great. So now I don't have to worry about tracking them down and finding where they are in the office, or maybe they've gone out on a vacation or something. They'll see these reminders when they come back in and check their email. And we've also given you a link that goes directly back to that P&ID. And so if I go ahead and select this link, it's going to open up another page for me. And I can go ahead and close down the previous one, let it finish that up. And once it gets done loading and grabbing all that data, I can come through and see any of my markups that I could have in here. So now I know that, hey, this fluid ID needs to be assigned to fuel gas and set the count to 303. So at this point, I would go back into my CAD design software, update the information, recreate that PDF for everybody. And the nice thing about this is when you create your PDF, the only requirement is you just save it to a specific folder. So pretty simple requirement, just create that PDF in the folder. And once that update has happened, the information will sync across into SOCKETWorx for you. Now, if I've finished the work and I've gone through this process of updating it and doing everything I need to, I could say, hey, I've worked on it. If I need to go through another approval process, I'll just change it to issue for approval. And then whoever needs to work on it at this next step, I can notify them and say, hey, I've made the changes. Is this what you're looking for? The great thing about doing it this way is you don't have to rely on that sloppy writing from whoever's been marking up your P&IDs. So this is very clear. There's no ambiguity of did they type in 303 or 308. I don't have to guess anymore. I can see very clearly what's going on, and my markups are going to be nice and visible and ready to go. Now, if this is ever finished and finalized, we can set it to close, and I can just turn off this annotation. So now it no longer shows up in the area. Don't have to clutter up the drawing with all these annotations if something's been finished and closed as we go through that process. Just a brief touch on the PDF markup view. We'll get into this a little bit more when we talk about the management of change side of things, but this PDF markup view is a very quick way that allows you to go through and see all of the markups across the entire project and see who they're assigned to, who's working on them, what status they're in. So as a project manager, it's a great way to just visualize what's going on with your project, where it stands, what's still open, what needs to be worked on, whether it's internal waiting on somebody, external waiting on someone. We give you a lot of filters to go through up here and see all this data as we go through that process. So we have plenty of connections to work with. We've got plenty of tables to go through and work with. Again, out of all these tables, just pick and choose which ones you want to view, modify the data, see the data as we go through there. And again, that great search functionality to go through and find exactly what we're looking for and view that data.